Welcome to Toot Your Own Horn Music Matters. Today we are here with Blaise Parker. Welcome, Blaise.
Hey Lisa, thank you for inviting me and including me.
I'm so happy to have you here. We are so excited to hear you tell us your story. Tell us how you chose your instrument.
When I was 4 years old, my parents enrolled me in violin lessons at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. And my father was still in school there. And from what I can recall, it was likely the Suzuki method,
Mhm.
but it didn't take. After 6 weeks or so, I was still sawing away at that variation of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and the other kids were advancing at these better bowing techniques. But I didn't connect regular practicing with advancement. I mean, I was four as a product of my home environment. Neither of my parents were musical,
Mhm.
so I wasn't given the framework to practice each day. And I'd go to the class lesson the following week and I'd be right where I'd left off. So, and meanwhile, it came out later that a lot of the other kids had parents that played instruments. So that was why they were advancing and continuing in the program. And I just kind of fizzled out. So my father graduated the next year with a bachelor's degree in biology and then immediately, well, took a sharp U-turn and then completed the requirements to become a minister in the Congregational Christian Church.
Oh my gosh.
So life changed very dramatically for me between first and third grade, not the least of which was our relocation from living in Bowling Green to living in rural Ohio with proximity to Bowling Green. So the weekly trip to the library became sporadic, and the cultural activities, going to music concerts, seeing the high school marching band, having access to the movie theater all nearly disappeared, unless it was like a very conscious effort on the family to include that. And so all I was left was like these big stretches of time by myself until my little sister was born a few years later. I was self-sufficient enough to find ways to entertain myself, and they rented a farmhouse, and the growing of crops was managed by someone else. But those desolate rural scenes in Napoleon Dynamite where absolutely nothing was happening really resonated with me. But I liked singing and I liked music class, and I loved playing the auto harp in music class.
Mhm.
So much that I asked for one, and I got an auto harp for my birthday. I think it was in third grade.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it went the same direction as the violin lessons. I mean, if we had a few choruses of "Go Tell Aunt Rhody," the coordination and singing just frustrated me to no end. And so my auto harp career was soon over. But the biggest announcement in a long time, my father had been appointed to a church in little West Mill Grove, Ohio, and that meant now I had access to a piano. And I watched some of my friends play songs at the school talent show, and I was just so impressed. I mean, one day they were my classmates, and the next day they were musicians playing real songs on a real piano in front of people.
Wow.
And I just had to be a part of this. The only problem was I didn't know how to read music, and I wasn't going to let a technicality like that get in the way. So I'd ask my friends to play the song, and I watched their fingers. And then later, when I was by myself, I'd try and try until it sounded the same way as when my friends played. I got brave enough to ask my father if he thought I played well enough to play a solo in church
Mhm.
on a real piano in front of people and everything. And to his credit, he made me audition in front of he and the church organist. And
Oh,
I was so nervous. But the muscle memory was there. It kicked in, and my calm hands at the end of my shaking arms delivered the product. No perfect. And I was given the approval. So people stopped me after the service and complimented me and job well done. I was just on cloud nine. You mean I practiced this hard, deliver a performance like that, and adults talk to me in a nice tone of voice? I am in. I love this. So I learned as much by ear that I could stand. Eventually, not even needing anybody to show me how the fingerings went, I could just sound it out on my own from a recording. It was also about this time that I was figuring out that I was gay. So I stuffed those feelings way down and I tried to be as normal as a little androgynous gay boy could be in rural Ohio. The teasing and the bullying started to ramp up in about third grade, and I needed something that would make me feel less isolated, give me a sense of belonging at school. The big day came, fifth grade, you're going into fifth grade, and if you want, you can be in band. If I'm in band, then they're going to have to teach me to read music. The wide world was open. Anything could happen. I had to choose carefully because, I knew that instruments were expensive, and that I arrived at the decision to become well-known and loved and accepted the world over because I was going to play the flute. Now, the flute was great because I heard it on a lot of recordings. Gave it the old college try. Started band class. I don't know. At the end of the first year, I'm just, God, band is moving slow. Stupid Billy down there holding things up because he can't remember, how to put his instrument together. And my flute playing also began to languish. And it just seemed like we were going over and over the same stuff every week. And I practiced, but I didn't want to because there's nothing new to do.
So it didn't give you any of the comfort that you had hoped it would?
Not at all, So in the course of all that time, we moved to Michigan, rural Michigan.
Wow.
Another church, another community. And I'm still trying to find my people. I'm trying to find my acceptance. This little gay boy who plays the flute and wants to be normal more than anything in the world. And try as I might, the bullying and the name calling are just getting more and more severe and scary. And I'm withdrawing more and more. Well, my grandmother Parker visits. And, the usual, Blaise, how's school? I hear you're playing band concerts now. I brought you this clarinet because I know you love music. And I remember that one time you played a piano solo in church on Christmas, and it was your Uncle Steve's, and he's in school, but he doesn't play it much. And, well, here's how you put the thing together, and make sure you use the cork grease because the cork is fragile. And I know things with your mom and dad are kind of rough right now. We've had a good visit, but I think things are going to be all right. I've got to stop and buy some cigarettes before we drive home. Bye, I love you. And the truth was I was caring less and less about everything and just becoming quite depressed. My parents were busy with their deteriorating marriage. And then one weekend, early in seventh grade, I got good and bored. I mean, really bored. I'd played all of the piano by ear that I could stand, played all of the games and diversions that I could possibly stand. There were no good books in the house to read. Too early for anything good on television. And my mom and sister were off doing something. My dad was out making house calls. So I'm at the end of my rope bored. And I spotted this clarinet that is still in its case that my grandmother had left with me. And I took it out and I carefully assembled it the way that she'd show me. Be sure to use cork grease because corks are fragile. And remember to soak the reed in my mouth. Gross. But I'm bored, so I have to. And I made a sound on the clarinet, not a squeak. I made a sound just like when my grandmother and I had tried it together.
Yep.
Pretty cool. So I put a finger down, note changes. Put a finger down, note changes. Put a finger down, note changes. Put a finger down, squeak! Oh no, this can't be. Why did that happen? Did you feel your right hand finger slip off that ring? Yeah. Try it again. Finger down, note change. Finger down, note change. Finger down, note change. Finger down, note change. Hooray, no squeak. All fingers down. No squeak. Well, I'm not bored now, am I?
Right.
Rubank, page 1, open note, G, aced it, half notes, loved it, thumb F. And then they're starting to mix it up, and I'm just going, nailing it. And I proceed to work through the entire Rubank book in one weekend.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like nothing I'd ever felt before. The sense of accomplishment, the sense of ownership. I knew I was onto something, but then I had to ask that question that is the bane of all band directors' existence. Mr. D'Angelo, can I change instruments? I think it was something about the urgency of my little gay boy question that he knew I was serious. He made me audition, and he was just kind of spot checking out of the book, trying to trip me up. And, you're not good at the flute. Why do you think you're going to be good at this? But I'm nailing everything. And so he says the magic word, yes. Yes, tomorrow you could start in the clarinet section. I just beyond happy. And it's time for chair tests. And then I get the surprise of my life. I was placed second chair out of the whole section.
Oh my God.
Right out of the gate. I was just completely flabbergasted by that. It's like I started to look forward to school again. After all of these bad starts, the false starts, the general failure with the other instruments, I had achieved something, relying on myself that first weekend. And only second to a girl named Sandra, whose father, by the way, also was a musician and was the church organist at the Catholic church in town. So I didn't feel too bad about that. I mean, she had some advantages, but I'm all right, Parker, not too shabby.
Mm-hmm.
And I know to some people that may sound like an overinflated achievement, but that unexpected seating in the section meant the world to me. When you're a kid, what's happening at school is your world. And, when something like that happens, it means something.
Especially with everything that was going on in your life.
But I was accepting of all of that because of how the kids then were able to become my friends in band. They were able to connect with me and relate with me. I was no longer the kid, is that a boy or a girl, at the bad end of the flute row. I was Blaise Parker, and I was now one of the good, serious young musicians in our program. I was noticed, I was seen.
Yep, that's awesome.
My band director made sure that I was able to attend summer music camp at Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp in Michigan each summer. And from that point on, the clarinet has always remained a prominent aspect of my identity. Wanted to join jazz band because I wanted more of the same. And so the natural choice for me was to pick up the
saxophone.
Trumpet. You're right, Lisa. It was the natural choice for me to pick up the trumpet. And then, freshman year of high school, the marching band season is staring down our little music program. And so I volunteered to play brass on the field. My band directors loved me for that. But then, concert band season would go around and I would switch back to clarinet. My dad remarried and it brought an opportunity to move out of that small town. And then what I consider to be a lifelong series of musically guiding events that began to occur. So we lived in a short time in a neighboring town, but it was a bigger school district, a little larger band program, trumpet marching band, and then landed first chair in the clarinet section in November. So now I'm really hooked. I'm hooked and validated like never before. I'm still trying to fit in, trying to be normal and, trying to date girls. Sorry, Janine. Sorry, Sharon. Yeah, so on the surface, I was happy, but on the inside, I was just completely uncomfortable here in my own skin. And like the band Fags label, we were still in rural Michigan, didn't help. And so I just kind of began to overcompensate in my behaviors. Not really proud of that.
Yeah, well,
high school, it was just pretty horrible. And band became the only reason in my mind at the time to go to school because I got to play the clarinet every day and be with my friends. And never mind that I was easily sight reading everything that was set in front of me. That was just my baseline state of musicianship. The only extra I could add to participate was in solo contests, which I did every year from 7th grade to 10th grade. But I also observed my own decline in the ratings. I went from 1s in middle school to 2s in high school. And it was quite a blow because I was used to this easy success and I didn't know what to do about it. Up until that point, I just didn't have to work very hard. And my answer came to me my junior year of high school in the form of a move from Michigan to Portland, Maine. So my father had taken a church out there and all of a sudden we're moving to a real city.
Yeah.
And life in a large and successful band program agreed with me very much. We had the winningest marching band in the state, and I noticed that the concert band didn't struggle to fill any sections like the other schools. I didn't know at the time how much work it took to run a band program, but my audition for the concert seating didn't go as planned. Later, my band director confided in me that I would have topped out the clarinet section there, and he thought I would have been bored. So he challenged me and offered me an oboe, which was, the one instrument we didn't have.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was like some serious positive reinforcement. Somebody believing in me proactively. So I was enrolled in oboe lessons with a private teacher. A private teacher. They have private teachers there, Lisa, in the city. But more importantly, he handed me a phone number. Turns out to the principal clarinet of the Portland Symphony Orchestra, Dr. Eugene Jones.
Mhm.
So now I had a reason to practice. I started learning what to practice. And I had adults in my life that were in the biz. So I began getting this elevated level of instruction. And it was just a much needed breath of fresh Atlantic Ocean air. And it did three things for me. I started playing in the school orchestra, and I was put in touch with a band director that played in the Portland, Maine Community Band. And I was invited to play weekly rehearsals with them and the occasional concert. That was an added challenge. They were doing real literature. Not that the high school in Portland wasn't, and not that the other programs weren't trying, but this was just that added level that I so needed.
Mhm.
And then I won the All-State audition that year and was placed as principal clarinet in the Maine Orchestra under Karel Husa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like these are these signs that are just I'm on the right path. Keep going, keep going, keep going. So unbelievably wonderful time in my life. And high school graduation is looming. So all my friends are talking about going off to school. It was a given for some of them, but my family just did not have the means. I've been paying for my own clarinet lessons and oboe lessons, reeds, etude books. That was on me. So the direct line to music school seemed blocked, and I just didn't have the wherewithal to ask the musical adults in my life because I was just so focused so much on my struggle with my sexuality. It was real hindrance at the time. And a well-meaning parishioner of my father's, I think, may have mentioned the GI Bill and the matching benefit. And so, the next logical step for a closeted gay boy who had moved around with his family a lot and had no other prospects was to say, yeah, I want to join the Air Force. What could go wrong? So I'm going to serve our country and make some money for music school all at the same time. And the attaboys and the positive social interaction just come flooding in. So I made it through basic training, only slipping up once with a drum major style salute to my training instructor, who just kind of looking at me like, what was that? But, for the most part, I passed. Got through tech school, learning electronics and maintenance fundamentals to repair a communication system to our missile silos. And I still found the time to play the clarinet, if only for myself. So I looked up a teacher in the local clarinet studio of a nearby state university, not in Ohio. And I began studying again. Sometimes all a young person needs is some peace and quiet to get their lives and their thoughts together. And after a visit home on leave, a heart-to-heart chat with a family member who came out to me, I was at least able to come out to myself. Oh no. So everyone can guess how this chapter of my life ended with a premature discharge. I had a stellar performance in the military, and my commanding officer even told me that he could not give me anything less than a general discharge under honorable conditions. I had to explain to my dad and my stepmom about the sudden change in my life, but I had enrolled in music school. That's what all this effort was for. And music school is a non-traditional student, no less. That's their euphemism for older. Music school did agree with me. I was placed with the adjunct clarinet professor, Dr. James Guy.
Mhm.
And one of the first things he set in front of me was a set for clarinet by Donald Martino,
Oh my gosh. So,
an unaccompanied clarinet showstopper, just page black with notes.
mhm.
And so, I mean, we started working on that. And I started also studying saxophone with him. He was a doubler, and he made arrangements for me to give a full recital at the end of my freshman semester. So at the semester change, all of a sudden there's room in the professor of clarinet studio, but it was not easy. It didn't go. This is why I'm not naming names or places. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it seemed more like this person was trying to break me down than build me up. I went home to Bowling Green, Ohio over the summer, and like it just suddenly reminded me, oh yeah, we've got like a really good music school here at Bowling Green. So I requested an audition for the BGSU College of Music, and a friend of the family was the receptionist in the main office there, and she probably shouldn't have, but she leaked to me that I got the highest entrance score in the clarinet studio there. Mr. Mark Kelly, band director, taught us how to conduct, how to listen, how to
Mhm.
all things band directing. Robert Spano, now of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, was our orchestra director, and Mr. Ed Marks was my clarinet teacher. He had the unenviable job of having to teach me to play with rhythmic accuracy. Had earned the additional credits for a degree in clarinet performance, but I chickened out and applied for the to be awarded the Bachelor of Music Education. I only lasted in the public schoolroom for 4 years. The last two were near Dallas, Texas, and I just figured, no, this is not for me. I made inquiries into the Dallas Wind Symphony. Crickets. Wasn't in the right network. But the Metropolitan Wind Symphony under Randall Bass had evolved into a pretty serious group. He'd made some band arrangements of John Williams' film score music, so that was very, very rewarding. And about that time, home recording software was becoming available, so I recorded my first CD amongst all the other band CDs that I appeared on. And, kind of tootled around in the community orchestra field for a little while. And then I crossed paths with a young man that was playing accordion on the porch of a restaurant. And it turns out he was trying to form a foxtrot orchestra.
Oh.
And I got to be in on the ground floor of that. It was the Singapore Slingers, clarinet, saxophone, two of my favorite things. That really took off. And then we had a chance to move to Chicago, and I knew absolutely nobody up here. I had no connections really. And after we got settled, I looked at a website called the Illinois Council of Orchestras. Like no other state that I knew of had anything this organized. Like, wow, that's that's pretty handy. And so I landed the only clarinet position listed within an hour and a half of our house with the Lakeview Orchestra. And so I've been with them for 6-7 years and ongoing with a healthy break in there for the pandemic. But I don't want or lack challenge or musical fulfillment with them. Is so rewarding. I've had to learn that I need to do this for myself.
It's really cool because it says how strong you are. So many people had a lot of great teachers, and not that you haven't had good teachers, you have, but you made a decision that it was something important to you, and you kept finding a way to keep coming back to it, and you kept trying to find music.
It's always been rewarding. I had to figure out that I'm only in it for the intrinsics. Nobody gets in this business for money.
Right.
necessarily. And it's nice when the money comes.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I do like that. It's the helping of people.
What made you not like teaching in school?
I just found myself spending more time trying to deal with disciplinary actions than I was trying to figure out good teaching methods and fun, engaging things. It was just not a good fit for me.
Mhm.
In hindsight, if I could go back and take the performance degree for all that has gotten me, I probably would do that differently.
What choice did you make then in your career?
So when I went back to corporate America, I pulled on the experience that I had in the Air Force, and that was in electronics and communications. Landed a job with what became Verizon. So I always kind of done this dual career shuffle, and they both have meaning to me, and I've had a good amount of success in both. So
Are there other musicians there that you've stumbled into or not so much?
occasionally, yes.
Mhm.
And it's like just this instant bond. We've been through the same classical training. We've had similar, it doesn't matter, where you went to music school. The point is you got through music school.
If
You
somebody
know,
was listening to this and was really amazed by your story, what would you tell them to encourage them to play a wind instrument right now?
make sure that you're doing it for yourself because if you're trying to do it for somebody else is probably not going to work.
Is there any advice about what to pick? Because you played pretty much everything, it sounds like.
I did. Just curious by nature. Just make sure that you're doing it for yourself.